Hello, my name is Dr. Bob Cruz, and this presentation is a review of a book chapter. It is co-authored with Dr. Kathleen Patterson. The chapter will be published in the forthcoming second edition of the book titled Servant Leadership Developments in Theory and Practice, edited by Dirk Van der Rendonk and Kathleen Patterson, and it'll be published by Palgrave Macmillan with a projected release of the end of 2024. So the purpose of this chapter is to dispel the relenting or unrelenting notion that the terms followership, following, and follower have lost their edge or its place of prominence beside the leadership terms they coalesce with today. By contrast, important scholars who support this notion are Roast, who declared the terms followership, following, and follower were outmoded and out of touch with today's modern age. Moreover, Northouse suggested using the term subordinate, while Ubine recommended the use of the terms participants, collaborators, or partners. Respectfully, their recommendations are noted and still included in today's debates 2 decades later. Meanwhile, we will present research, experiential, and support in defense of strengthening the identity of the term to follow. For an overview, a nobility perspective is presented for dispelling followerships, negative connotations, or attempts to use different terms. A biblical perspective is presented for servant as a followership foundation. We propose a servant leadership definition, servant followership definition, servant followership's challenges, and some expanded research on servant followership. So we propose a nobility perspective. Considering the terms following, and followership, we believe we must rethink how we view them, but view them from a nobility perspective. We believe that we must move away from the negative perspective that engulfs the terms. The key word noble immediately gives a sense of respectability to the terms. In Merriam-Webster, the definitions of noble and nobility are as follows. Noble lends to outstanding qualities. One who is illustrious. One could even be famous. One is notable in espousing high moral standards. Nobility is one being noble in character or quality. The perspective of nobility or of being noble contributes to shedding a brighter, more meaningful outlook of the terms follow, followers, or followership. We believe this perspective is relevant today and an excellent segue to giving the terms a more palatable and respective outlook for building a servant society. Meanwhile, the noble perspective accentuates most follower scholarship that serves as our foundation today. For instance, and most notable, through the well-known research of Kelly, he discovered leaders contribute on the average no more than 20% to the success of most organizations. Followers are critical to the remaining 80%. Most people, however impressive their title or salary, spend more time working as followers than as leaders. That is, we spend more time reporting to people rather than having people report to us. There is a servant dynamic that is attached to followership in our view. We believe servant is foundational. From a biblical perspective, servant is the foundation of followership. If we have a heart of a servant, we adopt a servant approach, we will be successful at serving as unto the Lord and not men. The experience of servanthood and service is not negative in nature, as others have categorized the terms followership, follower, or follow. But there are some who believe that the term servant is negative in nature. However, as nobility strengthens followership, the approach of servant enhances followership's strength. So why servant and followership, why do they matter? Greenleaf elaborated this. But if one is servant, either leader or follower, one is always searching, listening, expecting that a better will for these times is in the making. It may emerge any day. Any one of us may find it out of our own experience. I am hopeful, Greenleaf said, to that end. As a result of what Greenleaf has said here, in terms of a better will, we present a better will for these times with the following definition of servant followership. Servant followership is defined as one who is patient, expresses kindness with love, is diplomatic, is tactful, approachable, personable, resilient to bounce back from admitted mistakes, and able to withstand unrelenting pressure. This is done in a spirit of humble service provided to our superiors, our peers, our subordinates, and our external stakeholders. Servant followership is a discipline. It is a career. It is a calling. It is a continuous improvement process done in a spirit of service from a servant's heart. Now, earlier this year, Dr. Patterson and I attended the April 2024 Global Followership Conference at the University of Strathclyde at Glasgow, Scotland. And we offered this definition of servant leadership. In more detail, the definition is a result of our experiential perspective formed from over 40 plus years as servant followers in higher education, the United States Air Force, and for-profit and nonprofit corporations. Components of this definition are behavioral in nature. Consider patience, express kindness with love, diplomatic, tactful, approachable, personable, resilience to bounce back. These are behavioral in nature. In the chapter that myself and Dr. Patterson co-authored, titled Followership and Servant Leadership, Companions in an Endless Relationship, we elaborated on how followers use or utilize organizational aspects of delegated authority, inherited authority, influence, and power. Through these aspects, followers are playing a major role in an organization's ability to succeed at meeting its vision, mission, goals, and objectives. In our research, we highlight how a simplistic management tool like the job description is used to offer opportunity for strategically positioning followers to contribute to the goals and outcomes for the organization. Meanwhile, noble servant followers are presented by challenges. So considering the challenges, how do we maintain the idea of the nobility of servant leadership we just described earlier? The environment we live in today presents challenges like tragic events, immorality, and unethical leader dilemmas and professional setbacks. Erroneous leadership styles in the workplace present us with workplace abuse, narcissism, and they morph into toxic leadership and toxic workplace environments. Lack of leadership style training is at times non-existent in degree in most organizations today. So the next question, how does the servant follower adhere to the servant followership definition we just presented you today? Well, the leader character quirks we see daily are a profound challenge for servant followers. Quirks challenge a servant follower's posture of servanthood and its ability to remain true to the servant followership definition. So how do we maintain servant followership behavior presented in the definition? The difficulty with maintaining the posture of servanthood and the servant followership definition is hard, even for the most astute of servant followers. Behavioral reactions are governed by the heart, which grows weak and deceitful and vengeful when challenged, if we allow that. And I reference Jeremiah in the English Standard Version, Jeremiah 17:19, where it reads, "The heart is deceitful amongst all things." How do we question that? By contrast, the desire to serve the leader, morally love your leader, and respectfully challenge the leader are acceptable and a powerful behavioral reaction result when demonstrated. Meanwhile, servant followers make decisions to maintain their servanthood and definition even in a chaotic environment. Does this mean that a servant follower is weak? Does it mean they're defenseless? Does it mean they're uncourageous or complicit in the wrongdoing of faulty leadership? We would agree that it does not. When challenged, though, servant followers have options. Given the servant followership challenge I just presented to you, Shalluf presents options. In his meditation on followership, the meditation is for courageous followers and servant followers to read as needed. It empowers one to address faulty leadership styles. Following is an excerpt from that meditation. The first is, I have the power to help leaders use their power wisely and effectively. Next, if leaders abuse power, I can help them change their behavior. If I abuse power, I can learn from others and change my behavior. If abusive leaders do not change their behavior, I can and will withdraw my support. By staying true to my values, I can serve others well and fulfill my potential. Thousands of courageous acts by followers can, one by one, improve the world. Courage always exists in the present. What can I do today to be the servant followership I'm called to? If you want this meditation excerpt, you can find it in Shallop's book, The Courageous Follower, Standing Up to and For Leaders. This is listed in the reference section of this slide deck. So we've come to the point where we want to expand the research on servant followership. And what we're doing is presenting the idea of servant followership's best test. So my thinking was that if servant leadership has its own best test, why don't we develop a servant followership best test? The idea is that the best test relates to the matters of the heart. This is a functional aspect of the test, and the matters are internal to the person, and they are only seen when exhibited through one's behavior. So servant leadership's best test asks the following questions. Will the servant follower's heart allow one to express kindness with love, regardless of what circumstances they must endure? Next, will this expression allow one to remain teachable, display diplomacy, tactfulness, remain approachable and personable, recover from mistakes, and withstand unrelenting pressure while serving those they follow? Will the servant follower maintain their discipline and cement their servant followership career with a servant's heart capacity while building a better society of servant followers and servant leaders who coalesce professionally and personally? In conclusion, there are no limitations on serving others, especially if we consider the biblical worldview perspective that we live under as believers. We have a choice to be servant. Followers are mostly unseen and unknown. They kind of like work in the background. They are motivated to serve as the primary function of who they are. Greenleaf stated, I cannot conceive of a duller, less creative world than one in which everything can be fully and rationally explained. And we echo his sentiments as it relates to servant followership. By the same token, Kelly firmly asserted, without followers, little gets done. With followers, mountains get moved. By sheer numbers alone, followers represent the bulk and substance of any enterprise. And finally, we all must acknowledge the influence and power of servant followership today. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening. I hope this was a blessing for you and left you with information to consider your servant followership circles of influence. The references for this presentation are provided at the end of the slide deck. Does anybody have any questions? Again, this has been a presentation of a co-author chapter titled Servant Followership, The Nobility of Leading and Following as Servant by Dr. Robert J. Cruz and Dr. Kathleen Patterson. Thank you for your time and have a great day.